Yo, what's going on, snipers, and welcome back to your United Draft to Glory franchise mode here in NHL 26. So in last episode, if you did not catch it, we had the first round of the playoffs against the Pittsburgh Penguins, and unfortunately we had quite a tough time scoring, and that's the main reason why we lost, because our defensive play was actually pretty good in that round, but like I said, we could not get that goal scoring support, which meant it was a really tough time for us in that first round. So I don't really know exactly what we need to do in terms of getting our team to assimilate better offensively. Maybe getting some better chemistry in our forward group would actually help things a lot. But you could see definitely not a lot of guys scoring in our lineup. We only had a total of 6 goal scorers in that series. And there was only a couple guys on multiple points. From a defensive standpoint, though, like I said, I think we did decent defensively. There is obviously some plus-minus issues just because we allowed more goals than we scored. But if you look at like the goaltending numbers, Forster was really good through 4 games. He had a .931 save percentage, and then Simic was not too bad when he played his only game. As you can see, a 2.02 goals against average. Like, we only allowed 10 goals in those 5 games, but we still had a lot of issues scoring, and that's why we lost. So it's going to be a tough offseason because, of course, Forster is a pending UFA. Simic obviously is listed as a starting goaltender, so there's a lot of up-in-the-air questions of our goaltending situation, what it's going to look like going into next season. And aside from that, though, everything else is pretty much probably going to look the same, I'd assume, but I'm hoping that we could still find a way to get our chemistry better on our offensive side of things. So yeah, hopefully next year we have a bit of a better playoff run, because obviously we are going to be going into 28-39 coming up soon, so that's going to be quite exciting that we're going to be going into almost like the 2040s already, but it's also a little nerve-wracking because then we are kind of more in a time crunch in terms of actually trying to find out if we're going to win a Stanley Cup in the series or if we're not going to. So with that said, let's get your guys' comments, see what you guys have to say about last episode, and then we'll obviously have a big and important offseason where we're going to try and maintain our team as much as possible, but there might be some people leaving, which is not great. So the first 2 comments are from Dylan Burrows. The first one says, Forster needs to stay at least 1 year. 2 would be best, I think. 1A, 1B next season and reevaluate after. So he's saying to hold on for Forster for at least 1 to 2 seasons. I don't think that's a bad option. Obviously, it really depends on his asking price, because obviously right now, if you could see, we go to a call for a contract extension. He wants a 5-year deal, which at the lowest we could get him for 5 years is probably something around 6.7. So that's not too bad. Obviously, if we add a clause into this deal as well, he'll have a lot more interest, which will obviously make it a lot easier to even lower this even drastically amount more. Like, we could drop this down to probably just over 6 million. But if we want to give him a 1 to 2 year deal, like what Dylan was mentioning, he doesn't really have a lot of interest in a 1-year deal. We'd have to overpay probably on him for 1 year. Like, we'd probably have to go with like over $7 million, yeah, for 1 year, which is not not ideal for a guy that's going to be probably splitting time with a starting goalie. So yeah, 7.25 for 1 year is a lot. If we go 2 years, obviously he wants pretty much right around the same, maybe a little tiny bit less. So I think if we are going to sign him, it would have to be more for the long haul, just because of the fact that it seems like he is going to be very, very pricey if we do have him on no movement clause for 2 years or something. So do we want to pay him $7 million? Maybe we can, but for 2 years only. If we want to go 5 years, obviously we got to try and lower it as much as possible. But yeah, I still think Forster and Simic would be a nice 1-2 punch. Simic has been related pretty good. Forster's actually had a really good career with us as well. Just in case you didn't see his career stats, the last 4 years he's been posting above a .910 save percentage. So he's been one of the stronger goalies in the league. So it would be nice to hold on to him, of course. And that's why he's demanding maybe as much as he currently is. So we'll see if we end up holding on to him or not. There is a lot of goalies in the system, and that's why we might not hold on to him, because you can see Gotcha would be a lower backup option for us. He'd be a lot cheaper as well, so maybe Gotch would be better to have as a backup again for next season. As you can see, his NHL career really hasn't been anything insane. Like, he's definitely not the best NHL goaltender in the world, so we'll see if we end up giving him a chance at a backup role next season or not, or if we end up letting him go to free agency. Aside from that, there's also Ambul, who could be potentially like a third-string NHL goaltender. Cantor is probably going to be let go of, because we do have a lot of guys in the AHL that are going to need to play, like Coach, for instance, Tambellini, and eventually Fritzmeyer. So Yeah, there's a lot of goaltenders. It's a bit of a logjam, but we might have to make a decision, which means letting go Forster. We'll see what we end up doing when we get to the re-sign stage, but for right now, we're obviously thinking about bringing him back, but it really depends on if, like, by the re-sign stage, if he's going to drop that asking price and the amount of years he wants. Also, Dylan says, I think after that playoff performance, the coach needs to go, and this actually was the coach's first season with our team. It's not the same coach as it was last year, so I don't really think he has to go, to be honest, because he's honestly had no experience hardly with our team. But I do think from a coaching perspective that we could definitely look to find somebody that maybe has some better work with our offensive core. Like, all these guys are pretty much A-plus coaches, but I feel like we need still somebody that works better with our forwards. Because, for instance, Wallin, as we look at him, you can see like his fit with Hromis not very good. Klinga, he's actually a pretty good fit with. Benaki's not a hugely great fit with. He's great with Roger Green. That makes sense why Roger Green simulated so well. Law, Nakamura, and McElhinney are decent. So he is actually pretty good with a lot of our forwards, but for some reason the forward chemistry has never been super good with this team. So maybe we look to find another coach that we could replace somebody else with, and hopefully they fit our offensive core a little bit better, but also have a good defensive chemistry. That way we could actually simulate good in the playoffs in terms of scoring goals as well. But we were a good offensive team during the season, so maybe it's just about waiting for our team to actually develop before they could start scoring goals and defending at the same time in the postseason. Next comment is from Mike Garbrandt, who says, that one stings after losing to Pittsburgh. I feel like you should revamp the AHL, cut out all the filler players, play potential players, maybe mix up the top six in the NHL. Paco was a disappointment in the playoffs. I wonder how Dave did in the playoffs. And Dave, let's see how he did actually, because we didn't take a look at this. Let's just go over to Boston's contracts just for fun. But let's see how Dave Antonio did for them in the postseason. I would assume he didn't do too much. Oh, okay, he did actually really well. That's actually kind of surprising. I think he's just doing that just because he knows that you guys would say, hey, see, you should have kept him or something like that. But 6 assists in 12 games is actually really good. He was only a +1, but he did also take 8 penalty minutes. But looks like he actually had a pretty decent time in the postseason. It's like regular season was like a 30-point season, so he was definitely on pace, I think, for a better season if you go by 82 games in the playoffs than he was in the regular season. So I don't know if he's just trying to show that he's worth that type of money in the playoffs or something like that, but looks like he had actually a pretty good postseason as compared to obviously a lot of our defenders and players on our team. But I still think, though, like Paco, even though he didn't score a lot, he was probably decent defensively, and then the other guys were probably decent defensively as well on our team, but definitely need to get that offense flowing better. Like, Paco should be the type of guy that picks up a lot of points in the playoffs just because he is an OFD after all. So hopefully next year is a lot better of a year for us in the postseason, but it kind of is a little bit disappointing to be a first-round exit again. And the last and final comment is from I Am the Quiet One, who says, I think this offseason may be more expensive than previous ones and may get more expensive as more big contracts are coming up. I like the idea of having Simic and Forster play again, but I'm unsure since we have a huge goalie tandem if it's the right call, even though some aren't ready. Like, Gotch could still be a backup to Simic, and we could let another goalie develop in the AHL. If we do let go of Gotch, that also solves the issue. As for money on Nakamura, I think the 1-year deal may be the play, or try and get him for 4 if his asking price doesn't decrease. I think you should be able to commit to Rankin long term as well. So aside from the goaltenders, we do have some other tough decisions in terms of contracts with guys like Nakamura and also Rankin. Rankin, I think, should be pretty easy to get on a long-term deal, but he is going to be relatively pricey. Is he worth that type of money? He might be down the road. Nakamura, on the other hand, is a pending UFA at the end of this upcoming season. So if we don't give him a long-term deal now, we'll need to give him a long-term deal next offseason. So these two guys might end up becoming more pricier than we were originally anticipating, but we probably will have to try and sign them to some good contracts here while we have the opportunity to do so, because if we go to a 4-year deal with Nakamura, he's asking for 10.925, which is very, very pricey, of course. But if we add something like a no trade clause, of course, that's going to add a lot more interest. If we keep going up on this, what's the lowest we could probably get Nakamura for? What is the lowest we could probably get him for on a no movement clause? It would be over $10 million still. Damn. All right. So I think, we'll probably end up sticking with a 1-year deal for him, which is kind of risky because he could head to free agency, but 10.65 for 4 years kind of seems a little bit expensive if you compare that to like other players on our team that are under contract long term. If you look at guys like Klinga, who's going into the last year of his deal, he was making $10 million, but now he's going to be making 13. Hiromis is making 9.5. So basically, if technically Nakamura is asking for as much as he is, Hiromis and Benak are going to be asking for a lot of money for sure when their contracts are done. So yeah, I'm not too sure on how expensive we want to be giving Nakamura in terms of money, but we'll come to that again next offseason because we will get him on a 1-year deal unless he gets qualified, of course. And in Rankin, if we go up on his contract as well, if we give him like, say, a 6-year deal, he's wanting like 7.625, which is kind of expensive. If we give him a no trade clause as well, maybe we could get him for way less. Let's see. I feel like he's an important piece just because if we lose Benak, of course, we kind of need to have that other center option. But it looks like if we wanted to lock him up basically long term, we'd be paying over $7 million regardless again. Yeah, it's basically right around his actual asking price. It's actually over his asking price with that no trade clause involved. We'd be paying him basically like $8.5 million. So yeah, $8.5 million for 6 is what we'd have to do if we want to sign him up long term this offseason. But we should probably think about doing some contracts like that soon because obviously as we go later and later into their RFA status, they're going to become harder and harder to re-sign. So I think for now we'll probably just end up giving them 1-year deals, but we definitely got to think about signing them long term. But we'll wait till we get to the re-sign stage and see if their asking price changes at all because obviously I don't really want to overcommit on them right now early on. So with that said, let's get to this year's draft, which honestly I have no idea what we're going to be really drafting in this class. So it's going to be kind of a bad draft probably for us, but hopefully we're able to find some decent players here just to kind of replenish our prospect pool a little bit more. I think there was actually some good options, but nobody actually really mentioned about the actual draft in this, this episode, I think. The ones I was looking at though, for sure, like the medium elite goalie, not that we really need medium elite goalies. I think there was also, who was it? No, it wasn't Typhoon. Medium elite power forward is not something I could get because he goes too early. Oh, was this lowly grinder was one I was definitely going to draft. That's right. I think there was somebody else that was low lead as well, if I remember right. Maybe not. Medium elite goaltender there in Hextall. I think there wasn't there a low lead or was that last year's draft class? Let me see. Because I honestly don't even know what we're going to get. Oh yeah, it was Berkowitz. Yeah, right. Okay, yeah, he's still definitely going to be the selection likely because he's got that low lead potential. So I think that's a good option, of course, to pick up just because if we end up losing a winger like Nakamura, we need still more wingers. Even though he's a left winger, he'd still be probably a decent replacement. He is a playmaker, but I definitely think he's somebody that could fit into our top 6 if we end up losing somebody super important. So anyways, with that said, let's get in this draft. So the Sens have the first overall pick followed by the Washington Capitals, Edmonton, Colorado, and the New York Rangers. So let's simulate through these picks and get to our pick at 26. First and foremost, though, the Sens take Steen, Matt Steen. That's kind of funny how his last name actually kind of transitions into his first name a bit. So Matt Steen almost sounds like one name, but looks pretty good. Center play, right wing playmaker. I thought he was going to be a center because not really used to winger playmakers too often. Even though I did have one way back in the day in a different franchise mode. Wow, that's actually a really substantial drop off. Wasn't expecting that. So an 83 overall went first overall, but a 75 goes second. So this guy isn't even ready for the NHL lineup yet. But Foy heads on over to Washington as a left wing power forward. I don't know if he was projected to go later or something like that, but if the rest of this draft class is that lower overall, there's only going to be like one NHL ready player out of the class, which means it might end up being a really weak one in terms of some of the picks and all that. But Edmonton at 3, what are they going to take? Shing, who's a 67. So yeah, this is a weaker draft class. All right, that's kind of weird. I was expecting these guys to be NHL ready because they go in the top 5, but only the first overall pick so far has been NHL ready. That is really weird. Let me go to view draft class for a second. Yeah, I guess that's the way it's supposed to be because those guys went early. These guys are projected 4th and 5th. So yeah, this class is probably going to be a pretty low end one, it looks like. Which is not what I expected. Anyways, Colorado at 4. CU 68 overall. Yeah. Yeah, so far anybody in this top 5 is not NHL ready. Like, all these guys are probably going to be playing in the AHL next season, I assume. Foy might be a fringe NHLer Steen definitely will be playing in the NHL, but Shing and Siu definitely will be probably minor leaguers if they are eligible for the AHL, which Siu is not, and Shing is actually. So, yeah, a couple of these guys will definitely be playing in the minors, but that's kind of insane. Kind of a weak draft class when you see guys like this going in the first round. And a 5th overall pick is literally just only a medium top 6. So, yeah, this might be one of the weakest draft classes we've seen in terms of high-end talent. Like, some of these guys are definitely going to develop into being still good players, but, like, you could literally get a 67 overall top 6 or a 66 overall top 6 late in the first round in some classes. To have one go 5th is kind of insane. Anyways, let's simulate to our pick at 26 and see if Berkowitz is still on the board, which he probably is. But before our selection, looks like it's got still good depth to it this draft class. You can see obviously a lot of medium 6s and medium top 4 defenders going, but it is definitely one of the classes I think that has been kind of weak in terms of just like the depth to it. Like literally some of these guys that went 12th overall are better than the guy that went 5th overall. Also, there's another medium elite that went 9th, but he is once again not NHL ready. So, very strange class. Very strange class. All right. So our pick, we could also take Kovalchuk, but Kovalchuk's only a medium top 6D, so that's not very good. So obviously we're going to be going for a low elite. We like ourselves our low elites in the series. So we're going to go off the board and go for left wing playmaker in Berkowitz, who's from Austria. And he should be probably, my guess, based on his attributes, maybe like a 63 or so. Maybe even like a 60 overall. Because you can see his shooting and puck skills are decent, but everything else is kind of mid. He is listed as a gem, which is good. But he's definitely going to be a lower end, I think, low elite than a higher end one. So I think he's probably going to be like a 60 to 63. That's my guess. So Berkowitz, welcome aboard to the Europe United. 62. See, right in the sweet spot. I said 60 to 63. He's a 62. That's still pretty good. That's still pretty good. And obviously he was projected to go later, but I think that's a solid first round pick. And he is going to be AHL eligible, which means we could play him in the AHL this season if we want to already, but we could wait. We probably will. We maybe actually could play him in the AHL because what was it? Mike was mentioning about really developing the AHL a little bit and kind of having our higher end prospects being down there. That might not be a bad option. So Berkowitz might get a contract in this episode. We'll see. It depends on, I guess, who we end up letting go of and all that. But that's a good first round pick. But obviously the rest of this draft I don't think is going to be too exciting. But we'll see what we end up getting with our picks anyways. All right, who's eligible to us? That's the closest one around this part. It's Holinka's a low top 6 forward. He is a sniper. Not necessarily a bad option. He is a right winger as well. He could be the type of player that maybe develops into becoming something like Nakamura at best, but I doubt he will, but maybe we'll take him. This guy's a low 6 gem in Teufel. He is a center, which we don't really have too many center prospects, I don't think, but he is a gem. Since he's listed as a gem, it'd probably be better to take him over Holinka, right? Let's see. BCC, DCC. What about Holinka? BCC, DCC. They're literally the same pretty much, except for probably a little bit of difference on the minuses, and also the fact that one's listed as a gem. Yeah, I think that's the only difference, I would assume. I don't know, maybe it didn't actually load Holinka. No, it didn't even load Holinka's stats because I clicked on it too quick. That's kind of annoying. So yeah, I guess technically by that logic, Holinka actually only had, what was it? So Teufel only had 1 D stat, but Holinka had no D stats? Yeah, Holinka actually might be the better of the two, based on that. So I might honestly go for Holinka over the gem, which might be a bit of a risk, but there is also another medium starter goaltender, but we have so many goalies that I just don't feel like it's necessary. This guy also has a weakness in character, which ain't great, so yeah, let's go for Holinka, even though he's not the gem, might as well, just because, like I said, we need more right wingers, and Nakamura could be on his way out relatively soon if we can't find a way to re-sign him, so let's bring in Holinka. 64 overall. That's a pretty solid overall for a low 6. Maybe he becomes something, maybe he doesn't, but his shooting 77s across the board, so at worst, he becomes maybe a really good AHL scorer. At best, he becomes maybe like a 4th or 3rd line NHLer, I would assume. So there is Jan Holinka. Let's simulate to our next pick at number 92. And there was a low lead that just went right before us, but I don't think I was going to be able to draft this guy anyways, but Peyton Volpati, looks like, yeah, he was an American, so that's a nice little steal there, though, from Seattle. What else do we got here that we could take in this class? The next best options, there are some low top nines in Braylon Delmore and also Connor Hart. There's also a low 9 in Dylan Kavanaugh. There's a defenseman that's a medium 6 in Kohane Hunter, who is 19 years old. Yeah, this does not look super strong at this point. Is there anybody with good potential that I had pinned, or is that goaltender that's 19 already in Hextall? And there's also that other low league guy in Landon Henry. Oh yeah, Henry was exciting. I forgot about Henry being exciting because he's 2 years out. We are going to definitely take him next round, I think. Yeah, we're going to take him next round. So let's go for another goalie, even though we don't really necessarily need one. I'm just going to go for him because he's got the best potential, really. So, boom. 58 overall for Hextall. He is 19. But we might as well just keep on replenishing our goalie prospect pool because we are going to be letting go of some of this offseason just because eventually at some point these goaltenders are going to be super valuable to our team. Now, they could go on and win Stanley Cups with other teams, but there's not really much other options out there for us in this class. So we might as well just take somebody with good potential. All right, next pick here, that's going to be our next good player. Hopefully, this is going to be the steal of the draft. In Mr. Henry. He is 19 years old, but if you look at his low lead stats here, you can see he's got B shooting as a grinder, which is exciting. He's got B- on senses, which is good, and he's got A- physical. So I'm guessing his overall is still going to be something like a 67, 68, something like that, maybe 66. But the fact that he's 2 years out as a lowly grinder and he's also a center, which is great. I think this guy could be a really solid fit for our bottom six, or even if he develops into a top six for it might not be bad. But it is kind of weird that he is a grinder. So I'm going to guess at best he'll become more of a bottom six option. But I still think he's going to be a useful player for our team just because we don't really have a physical presence on our roster in that bottom six, if I'm not mistaken. So let's take Landon Henry here and see how good he is. He's a 67. See, I kind of know overalls just by looking at attributes and stuff like that, but I kind of expected him to be around that point. That's actually a really good steal. I mean, he is 19, but still, I think he could develop into becoming something good. Obviously, he's only a grinder, but he could still become something really solid for this roster in that bottom six. So, like, his defensive awareness is better than his offensive awareness. He doesn't have the best face-off stats, so that's one area that he still needs to work on for sure. So yeah, he looks pretty damn decent, I would say, as a solid fourth-round steal. He was projected to go even later, but honestly, there's nothing really to take earlier on rather than him, so we might as well take him there. All right, we have still a couple more picks in this draft class, see if we can find anything else exciting, but at this point, I just really don't even know. Like, Gruel is literally a low top 9. He does have good shooting, which is kind of intriguing. But do I really need him? I don't know. Let's sort by potential again, see if we got anything here. Krog could be a low elite. And he's also 19 years old. You know what? We're going to just take a chance on him. I know he's not supposed to go to like round 7, but I'm just going to take chances on some of these guys that could be good. So, Wilson Krog, he is eligible to us. Let's take him. Boom. Low top 9. That's not great. It is technically probably around where he could have went because you could see Winter went right before and he was basically the same thing. So another grinder. So we're getting a little bit of physicality with this draft class. Is that a Todd Bertuzzi? Tyrone Bertuzzi. Never mind. That's kind of funny. Some medium bottom 6 forwards. There is a center right winger. It's another grinder though. Do I really want to draft my third grinder of the class? Maybe. Because like I said, we kind of need more physical like defensive options in that bottom 6. So instead of just drafting a bunch of snipers and playmakers, maybe go for Sedlak. Yeah, you know what? We're going to go for Sedlak. Why not? Let's take another grinder. 56 overall, and he can play center and right wing, which makes him a bit useful. So I don't know if he'll become much, but if he even becomes like a 70, he could still be an okay depth option or an AHLer. So getting a little bit of physical players with our team should be good for, like I said, the defensive play in that bottom 6. Because right now it might be too offensively minded at times. All right, anybody else get really good? Gariba might be a meme 4, but he's not supposed to get drafted. We could still definitely take a chance on him, but he's probably not super good. But we might as well take the risk, because at this point there's not really anything else with good potential. So we're going to go for, I guess, Peyton Gryba. and see if he's a medium forward that wasn't supposed to get drafted, or if he's a low lead or something. He is a medium 7th. All right, yeah, this guy's definitely not going to ever get a contract, but shout out to Peyton Greiba. There was not really anything else out there. He's got decent shooting as a DFD, but he is very, very low end. So that is our draft. I would say obviously not the most craziest draft, but Berkowitz should be exciting. Alinka could develop maybe into something. Hextall and Henry are really solid, obviously, but they're a little bit older. And then Krog, Sedlak, and Greiba, I honestly don't know if they'll become much, but at least there are more bodies in for our organization. So, like I said, a bit of a physical draft class for us, but honestly, we didn't expect that draft class to be super good on paper anyways. So we do got to bring back a lot of our NHL coaches. I didn't even realize that this offseason. So Tourney needs to be re-signed. Verada could be one of the ones that gets replaced, but I'm not too sure if I will replace him or not. I definitely want to keep Tourney because he's still a decent option. Wait, why can't I go up more? Why can't I go up more? Usually I thought I could go up more on that. Is the budget that tight or something? Or is that just glitched? Okay, I think it was just oh, no, it's because he is an associate coach. Associate coach. No, wait, what? It is glitched, I think. Because Ferrata has more money. And I could add more money, but I can't add more money to Tourney. I'm going to have to quit out of this and back into it, I think. But let's get, anyways, Ferrata re-signed as that assistant coach at least. But for some reason, Tourney is bugged where it's trying to get me to only offer him $100,000. So we're going to obviously try and offer more than that. But we'll do that in a second. Let's just get all of our other coaches signed back up here. You're an assistant, Novak, so we'll sign you back up here too. But yeah, we'll definitely think about maybe finding another good coach for the NHL this season just to try and get the offense better. Like I said, I want Andre Tourney back, but why is it glitched out at $100,000 and I can't go more? Like, we have a lot of budget left. Yeah, that's really strange. Okay, we'll definitely come back to that in a second here after I get some of the scouts offered their contracts and all that too. But I don't know why that's kind of glitched out. I think it's glitched out at least, but I could be wrong. Let's get all these guys signed up here because these scouts have done a great job, I think, still at building this team up with our limitations. And I'm hoping some of these guys could find some more really good players for us if we start to drop off eventually, which we shouldn't drop off for quite a while still because we still have a lot of guys under contract. But Hromis is the next big one that's going to need a major contract on this team. And I'm not too sure how much he's going to cost us, but hopefully not too much. All right, can I offer Tourney a contract now? Let's see. Nope, it's still glitched out. Okay, I'm going to have to come back to it at the re-sign stage here in a second. All right. So we're at the re-sign stage now. Let's go back to coaching staff and see if I could offer Tourney a contract now. Because it is being weird. What the heck is this? I could lower it, but I can't offer him more than $110,000. If I change it to associate, I can't even do anything. Assistant, I can't. That's very strange. Okay, so I gotta remember to bring back Tourney right after this, so I'm gonna write down his name. I might not even be able to get him back, so he might be the one that gets replaced, but that's really weird. Because if I offer him $110,000, I don't think he'll accept it. Like, I mean, I can offer him it just in case, but I don't think he'll accept. So let's just offer it him and see if he'll accept it, but I can't even go up in his price point, which is kind of weird. All right. Anyway, so that's all offered. Let's get to this re-sign stage and see how much money we got. We got $48 million, actually just under 49, I would say. But let's start off with our RFAs here. And Nakamura, I'm probably just going to qualify. He does actually now want a 6-year deal at 8.3. Still doesn't have huge organizational interest. Is 8.3 too expensive for him for 6 years? Like, he probably would want more money because he doesn't like the organization, but is he worth that type of money? He is a great goal scorer, so maybe. He's been one of our more consistent playoff performers as of late, too. I feel like he's only going to get better and better. Like, he's got a really good shot. His passing's not the best, but he's got good offensive awareness, too. I do really like Nakamura, but is it too much money to give to him? Because with that organizational interest, he's probably not going to want anything really less than this. Like, I don't think I could talk him to 6x8 or even 6x7.5 or something like that. Like, if he had a high organizational interest, I could probably be able to drop this down to like 6.9 or something like that, which is not bad for a top 6 forward. But since he doesn't have that organizational interest super high, I don't think I could lower it by that much. Like, I'd have to be paying him probably a minimum of like 7.1, which isn't really that bad for a top 6 forward, because it's on par with basically McElhinney's contract. So I am going to leave it for now. I don't think I'm going to qualify him just yet. I'm going to come back to him because maybe that's a decent deal. 6 by 7.1. Let me write that down just as a potential option. Rankin, what about you? What is your contract change to? 2 years at 4.35. You'd still be an RFA at the end of it. That's not really that bad. Good little trial run deal. If we locked him up long term, he'd want up to 7.75, which is not as expensive as it was before. So I might be able to get him on like a 6-year deal. But obviously I'd have to up this price a bit. Let's actually give him that no movement clause or no trade clause, just to give it a little bit more interest to it. Let me go up a bit. What would be the minimum I could get him for on a 6-year deal? Because I could do a 6-year deal for both Rankin and Nakamura, potentially. That might not be a bad option. For Rankin, it would be basically more than Nakamura, I guess, if we want to do a 6-year deal with a no trade clause. Yeah, it'd be definitely probably around 7.5. So it would be 6 by 7.5 for Nakamura. Or no, not Nakamura, for Rankin. 7.1 for Nakamura. So that'd be already 14.6. All these guys here are going to be relatively cheap. So that's going to be good. All two-way contracts. And Bull is potentially a third-string goaltender next season for us. He doesn't want a two-way deal, so we're already going to just give him that, because it's pretty easy. I'm already going to go ahead and let go of Cantor because I need to free up goalie space, so he's for sure one of the options that's going to be gone. But UFAs, that's going to be interesting with Forster's situation. I got to see how much he wants first before offering those RFAs, those long-term deals, I think. So first, let's go to UFAs here. So we are going to free up some roster space in the AHL, I think, a little bit. So we do need more defensemen under contract. Obviously, Grenier is just a cap whale, so we're going to let go of him. I could sign Blujas, but he doesn't really have a lot of potential. But I guess we could sign him and then let go of Bednar if we wanted to get some younger kids into the AHL. I guess I'll have to let go of Saric. So Saric is going to be let go of. We're going to sign McInnes just to kind of get some younger options into that AHL. Donaghy is not really developing much. Emerson could get replaced by Blujas if I want to, but I feel like Emerson should stay still in the AHL because he's pretty good. I don't think I'm going to sign Donaghy just because he's a low top 9. I don't really think he's got really a high ceiling, so I'm going to let go of him. Dolak I could sign because he's medium 9. Savon's also medium 6. So I could sign Savon here and get him in since he's got potential. And we'll let go of another older AHLer, somebody like Pearson and Locke, I guess I could let go of. So let's let go of a couple older guys in the minors. I could bring them back if I really need players in the minors, but I'm trying to make sure that we get some younger options into the AHL. Just because obviously this AHL team is kind of getting a little bit old. So, but like I said, I think I kind of want to hold on to Emerson still. I'm not going to sign Blujas to his ELC. I didn't realize he's already 22 as well. So we're going to let go of Blujas for sure. And then Emerson is going to stick around in the AHL, and same with Bednar, just because there's not really a lot of other defensemen down there. So we kind of need to have as much defensemen in the AHL as possible. So let's get Emerson signed and Bednar signed up for the 1-year deals. That should be pretty easy. These guys are probably all going to want 1 or 2-way deals, but they should be pretty cheap, I think. Yeah, Helmer still wants a 2-way deal. I'm going to hold on to him because he could be a depth forward in the NHL. Miller, same type of boat. And I did really like Miller when he was in the NHL. I'm going to come back to Mullen, Maltby, and Barrett here in a second, but here's the major goaltending situation. So Tambellini is definitely going to be playing in the AHL. So we will be signing Tambellini to his ELC. So that is a good little move right there. It's between Gotch and Forster easily, but how much are these guys wanting now? Gotch does not want an extension here. He wants a 2-year deal at 1.3. Does like the organization though. That's a nice little cheap contract for a backup option, to be honest. What is Forster wanting now, though? Has his contract changed? No, it hasn't. His organizational interest is super high, though, which is really good. But the fact that he wants a 5-year deal is still a little bit of the question mark. Like, if we wanted to give him a 5-year deal, I probably have to still give him over $7 million. But if I give him a no trade clause involved, that's where his price point could drop off a lot. I feel like he'll get a clause on another team. But do we want to try and pay him 6.5 on a 5-year deal? I know that Dylan was mentioning 1 to 2 year deal. If we do a 2-year deal for him, which is the ideal price point, we could give him a 2-year deal at, I guess, 7.6 something? Yeah, 7.65 around. Maybe even less than that, actually. Yeah, 7.625 probably should get it done. Maybe even 7.6. I might be okay with giving him a 2-year deal at 7.6. Because, yeah, let me just write down that 2 by 7.6 so I could do some math in terms of if we need to re-sign him or not. If I bring back Forster, what his asking price is, that's 7.6 plus 7.1 plus 7.5. So we're looking at 14.7. We're looking at basically like 22.2, I think, around. Maybe 23.2, something like that. So that would eat up like half the cap space we currently have. That's not really that bad if we want to stay cap compliant. That's not bad. Obviously, we'd have Rankin and Nakamura locked up, which would be great. Nakamura might even cost us a bit more still. But it would get Forster signed for 2 years, basically, while we wait for another goalie prospect to take his spot fully. Because obviously, Simic right now is technically the starter. Forster would be that 1B option. Gotch would be let go of if we do that. And then we'd have Ambul as a third string in the NHL. Coach Tambellini will be in the AHL. And then obviously there's not really a third string option for the minors, which we could sign like Fritzmeyer if we want to already, because he is 21. But since he has good potential, it's probably better to keep him unsigned. I could also keep on to Forster, or not Forster, Gotch as a third string option too, I guess, technically, and Ambul could be in the minors, but I'd prefer Ambul to be our third string option because I think he'll generate enough growth to be listed as a backup this season too. So I think I might bring back Forster over Gotch on a 2-year deal just to kind of help with our cap situation a bit, because we would need still a cap whale if I don't bring him back, I think. Because if we look at like Mullen, what is he wanting now as a contract? Very cheap option. We're going to bring him back easily at that price point. Maltby, what are you wanting now on your contract? Very cheap. We're going to bring him back as that price point, even though he might not like his ice time. And Barrett, what about you? What about you? Very cheap as well. I'm going to hold on to all those guys at that price point. So, yeah, basically, I think we need to have those cap whales still. And, I guess I could sign Gotch still as a third option. I'm just trying to think, because it would be between him and Ambul. I could have Gotch always just playing in the AHL, but he might be mad about his ice time. Like, he's a cheap option, but he doesn't really want an extension. So I guess it depends on if those other guys accept the contract offers. So I think what we're going to do here is first, let's get all these AHL RFAs signed up for the minors. Give them all 1-year deals, because all these guys don't really have much potential. But I don't want to sign him too long-term that it risks us losing a good prospect. So 1-year deal as well for UBX. So let's give you a little bit more money, though, or else you will not accept. But yeah, all these like 70 overall AHLers are kind of important still, just in case we end up losing people and we still need those depth options. So that's why I'm re-signing all of them. But I'm just going to give them all 1-year contracts. That way they basically could still leave to free agency within maybe the next year or two. But let's hold on to Dimitra for 2 years because we do need a lot of defensemen down there still. But yeah, Rankin and Nakamura, I think I am going to give them their long-term deals. I wasn't too sure if I wanted to do this offseason, but I think obviously having Rankin signed for 6 years, it's not really that bad at what he was asking for. So let's go to the 6 by 7.5. 7.5 to me, oh man, I went up a lot, is pretty respectable for a top 6 option. Because, like I said, he could be the replacement for Benak at the end of the season in the top 6, and he would be making less than Benak currently is. I might actually have to give this a little bit more money. 7.6. Does the no movement clause have more interest in the no trade? It does. Okay, so I can get him for a little bit lower. That's kind of weird that no movement has that, but maybe it says he can't be in the AHL. Yeah, let's do 7.4 for 6. 7.4? Yeah, let's do 7.4 for 6 for Rankin. I think that's not too bad. Obviously might be expensive early on, but I think he still should be able to replace Binakin. I don't know if Binak's the type of player I want to keep on to until he retires fully still. Nakamura, we're going to give you a matching 6-year deal like you want, but we're going to have to probably overpay. I wrote down 6 by 7.1, but now it says 6 by 8.3. Oh, and that's full interest. I don't think I could really lower his price by that much. Oh, it was Nakamura that was supposed to get 7.6, right? Okay. I feel like 7.6 for a top 6 forward's not too bad. And I really do like his scoring touch. Because I don't think, if I lower this by 1 full bar, I don't think he'll accept, so. I don't think he'll accept 7.3. I could try it, though. I could try it. You know what? Let's try it. Let's try it. Actually, let me give him a clause as well. And that might help things a bit. Because, obviously, we might as well utilize these clauses as much as possible. Let's go down to 6.75. Which, that's even better, I think, as a top 6 forward. We'll see if he accepts it. His organizational interest is halfway around, so I think he'd need maybe still more than this, but I'll still see if he'll be willing to accept that. And then, like I said, with the goalie situation, I think I want to still hold on to Forster for a 2-year deal. Which some people might not agree with holding on to him for 2 years, but he is been really good here. And this will give Simic another couple years to basically continue to develop his stats a little bit. So I don't think it's a bad idea to sign him up for a couple years. I think this is just a good option just to have ourselves 2 really solid goalies. Once Forster's contract is done here, maybe we'll have another AHL goalie ready to take that spot, basically. So we will do 2 by 7.55, something like that. And he'll be like a cap whale kind of option for us, I guess. And I will come back to Gotch. I still don't think I want to hold on to Gotch, even though Ambul could be back in the minors as a 3rd string option. I think Ambul is going to get enough growth to be just as good as Gotch potentially next season. But then we don't have a 3rd stringer in the minors, really. That's the only problem. But I feel like Gotch wouldn't be happy if I scratched him all year. So, yeah, I'll probably end up still letting go of Gotch. But it would be an okay option just to bring him back in case we have any goalie injuries. But I think Ambul is probably going to be that guy. So, let's advance today and see if anybody accepts those big contract extensions. I don't know if that coach accepted. Yeah, I don't think those coaches accepted. I'm going to have to come back to the coaches as well. So this offseason episode might be a little bit longer than normal. Emerson's back for the AHL. Same with Ambul and BX. Forster has accepted a 2-year deal. That's actually nice. All right. I think that's a decent contract from. Is it an overpayment for an 83 overall goalie? Potentially. But if you look at his individual numbers, I think he deserves a contract like this. And if he drops off after these 2 years, obviously we could just let him go. If not, we could still keep on holding on to him. I really like him because he scored a goal. So I think that's not a bad option to still hold on to him for a little bit longer. Nakamura also actually accepted that contract. All right, that's actually really huge for us. Not really a huge overpay. I'm surprised on that. And then we're still waiting on Rankin, I guess, because Rankin... Where did he accept immediately? Rankin accepted immediately. I didn't even realize that. All right. All right, so that's good. All right, so all of our RFAs are dealt with. Nice. And we have $30 million in cap space, though. And Gotch is not under contract yet. Should I just bring him back as a cap whale option? I honestly don't even know. We still do need a cap whale. That's insane. I mean, Simic's going to cost a lot within the next year or so. Do I want to resign or get another cap whale for his team? I think we need a cap whale regardless. I'm just trying to think. You know what? Let's keep on the Gotch. Ambul could be a backup goalie next season or a depth goaltender next season, but we might as well hold on to 3 goalies in each league, right? And we will give Gotch a chance to be a depth goaltender. He's not going to like, obviously, being a depth goalie, but it's going to be done. So we're going to give him... How much money do I need to be cap compliant? Probably a decent chunk. We're not going to give him $25 million, that's for sure. We're going to give him probably like 15 or something, and that should get us close to cap compliancy, I think. So we're going to go, oh my goodness, this goes too fast sometimes and then it goes too slow. I wish I could just type in how much I want to give him, but let's give him 15.5 to basically just sit on our bench. Maybe that'll help him in terms of wanting to come back to his team if we still need a backup goalie in a few years, but I don't think we will. But we're just going to hold on to Gotch for 15.5 just to make us cap compliant. So even though I thought this was going to be a tough offseason, we have everything re-signed, which is nice. And like I said, the big thing is Nakamura is now on a great little contract, and he's basically good enough to be a top 6 player. If we lose Horomis at the end of the year, it's going to kind of suck, though. But 6.75, I think, is a huge contract for Nakamura. I think it's a good prove-it contract. It's basically until he's 31. I think he'll start dropping off around then anyways. But I really like his goal scoring. He had 60 points this season. I think it's kind of useful, but he could be a really big overpayment at times too. So we'll see what ends up happening with that contract, but we had to get it done. Let me go back to coaching staff here. Looks like Tourney is still waiting on his contract. I don't even know if he'll accept that money. Verrata didn't accept being an associate or an assistant, so let's try and get him re-signed still, but we might still need to look for another coach this offseason. So let's keep on giving the Verrata. Let's give him just like the max money, pretty much almost around, to be an assistant coach. Novak does not want to be an AHL assistant. He wants to be an associate, but we're going to still sign him as an assistant. Give him the max AHL contract basically for that. And we'll come back to the rest of that stuff in a little bit if those guys don't accept, of course, which hopefully they do. Looks like we got one of our scouts back. Good stuff. But for the most part, this offseason was a lot easier than I thought. All right. I guess that's a glitch. Yeah, that must have been a glitch because Tourney re-signed as our associate coach at only $110,000. Well, that's a really strange one because usually you'd have to give a coach of that caliber like a lot of money. But he re-signed on the minimum deal because it wouldn't go up. That's definitely a glitch. There's no way that's not, right? All right. Well, that's kind of weird. I gotta definitely mention that to EA if I can, if that's actually a glitch, which probably is. It looks like, though, Verrata does not want to come back as an assistant coach, so that will open up a vacancy. I guess we won't re-sign him, but maybe he accepted. I don't really know. And then Novak did not accept either. I don't think they re-signed. Let's go back to coaching staff. Did those guys re-sign or no? No, they didn't. All right, so we're going to need an assistant coach in both NHL and AHL. That's fine. That's fine. We're not going to bring them back just because they are not going to want to come back for some reason. So yeah, goodbye to two Czechians, probably Verrata and Novak. Novak might be a Slovak, but I'm not too sure. All right, so we got to bring back some coaches, of course, and I think we're cap compliant as well, but I'll double check on that. Let's get ourselves a new assistant coach and see if there's anybody that works out really well with our team in terms of everything, good teaching grades and all that. I don't really want any real coaches too much, but we do have Tourney already. There's Jeff Blashill. Ryan Warsofsky works pretty well, as does Radek Ruchinski, but he's more of a defensive scheme coach. Let's see. There's also Steen, but he's more of a defensive coach. Yeah, it looks like a lot of the defensive coaches work really well with our team. Ooh, a 71%. That's actually really impressive. That's really impressive. He wouldn't be our head coach, but 71%, he's pretty good. He's not the best in terms of teaching and all that, but just to have him on the coaching staff would be not bad. I don't know if I want a defensive coach, though. You know what? Let's bring him in as an assistant. Let's bring him in. 71% is too hard to not pass up on, so we'll bring in Bickle as an assistant coach. And then we will see for the AHL if there's any good teaching grade options here as well. And we need to go to AHL head coach. Let's see. This guy's an A teaching grade. We could bring in him, I guess, 44. 44 is actually decently high for the AHL, so sure. We're going to bring you in as the assistant for the AHL. There's some other teams interested, but we'll definitely try and get you to sign here. And then we do need a goalie coach in the minors, but I'm going to leave that till the start of the season, probably still, or once we get our coaches actually signed up. So that's all good and dealt with. I'm going to just double check that we're cap compliant. This episode, like I said, is going to be a little bit long, but are we cap compliant? Yes, we are. So that's all good news. We don't need to worry about anything like that. So we could do some off-season focuses. but I honestly don't really want to make this episode like over an hour long. It's probably going to be regardless, but I don't really know who should get the focuses. I guess somebody like Fernandez could get some more focus, sure. I want Fernandez to have a really good season coming up. I guess technically he's good enough for the top 6, so yeah, there's going to be a lot of turnover in terms of some of our players eventually. But let's advance today and see if we get any of these coaches in that we offered contracts to. And then, of course, we'll sim up to next season. Already, Bickle is on board as an assistant coach. That's nice. And Prusik is on board as an assistant coach. So, looks like we got our coaching staff settled. We just need ourselves a goalie coach for the minors. And that's the only thing we need to bring in. So, let's go teaching grades again. And we'll bring in Krebs as the AHL goalie coach. And then our coaching staff is set up for the season. That's exciting. Obviously, it's still running the same coach basically as last season, but Bickle, I think, is an interesting one. I know he's not an offensive coach, like we're trying to get better offensively, but he is a 71% fit, it said, so maybe he can make our team even better. And there's Krebs on board as the goalie coach. Perfect. All right, so this team is already ready to go for next season. Obviously, now we got to get its line set up, which should be fun. And we'll see if we got any crazy good growth during the offseason in terms of like players jumping into the top 6. There's probably going to be people that are playing outside of the roles, which is not great for ice time, but we are going to have to think about who should be on our power play for sure and who shouldn't be, who should be on our penalty kills. So you guys will have to give me some suggestions for next episode on that front. But let's go to edit lines here and see what we're working with. Obviously, we could split up the top line if we want to as well. But in terms of the goaltenders, it's going to be Simic and Forster. Forster is technically the backup, but Simic is now a full-on starter as an 86. So goaltending looks fantastic. We are going to have to bring up a third-string option, which right now is Gotch. But Ambul could be that guy as well if we don't want Gotch to lose ice time. Who is going to be that guy? One of these guys is going to be scratched anyways in the AHL. So I guess we'll bring up Gotch as that third-string option, just because he's the cap whale. And then Ambul is going to get scratched in minors, but yeah, definitely Ambul could have replaced Gotch if I wanted to, but I needed a cap whale, so that's the only reason I did that. So he might complain, but it is okay. We could always waive him if we really want to, too, but I don't think anybody's going to claim his $15 million, so he should be able to move up and down quite easily. From a defensive standpoint, Paco, Lee, Urquhart, Powell, Polak is a top 4 still, and Richardson is going to make the NHL. Ullman was in the NHL last year, but he's back in the AHL again this year. He is a depth defenseman. Maltby's technically listed as a top 6, though. I would like to get Ullman back in, hypothetically, but Richardson's kind of stolen his playing time a bit. Do I feel okay scratching Ullman, though? How was he for us last season again? Plus 29. Very solid defensively. Didn't really do much offensively, of course. That's a tough one, because I think Maltby would definitely lose morale if I scratched him. So maybe for the time being, I'll call up Ullman as that depth defenseman. But we definitely have to think about it a little bit stronger, I think. But we have 3 righties and 3 lefties in the NHL, so it doesn't matter if they're left-handed or right-handed as that depth defenseman. So you guys can let me know which one you think would be better. Maltby obviously would be the realistic choice, but he is already listed as a top 6, so he'll probably complain, which is not necessarily ideal. So I'll probably keep him in the minors for the time being. From a forward perspective, it's Romas, Nakamura, McElhinney, Bradford. Helmer could be a depth forward potentially up here if there's no better option, but there might be. Left wing, Nichols. Nichols isn't the best. He is a depth forward, though. So Nichols could stay up here if we want to. Law, Klinga, that's fine. Centers, we have Benak, Green, Fernandez, Rankin, Parrott, Miller, and Mullen. Miller is back to a minor scoring forward. Mullen is a depth forward. So Mullen might not even play in our lineup this season, which is kind of insane. But let's go best lines in both the NHL and AHL. Set this thing up. So, in terms of chemistry, I want Nakamura obviously in the top 6. Law is listed as a second liner now, but I don't think I want him in the top 6. So, it would probably be McElhinney up there in the top 6 with Green and Nakamura again. Law, Rankin, and Fernandez. How's Fernandez's face-offs getting? 71 now, that's not bad. And then we'd still have Bradford, Mullen would be playing in the middle, I guess, because he's a center. Who's scratched right now? Oh, Barrett should be playing technically, so let's get Barrett in that spot instead, I guess. Barrett's probably not going to be happy with his ice time once again. He is actually listed as a depth forward, so maybe not. All right, I think that's what I would run with, but I do need to send down a forward, so we could call up a defenseman, basically. So I'm going to send down Nichols because he's the lowest end of the players that are scratched. And we will call up as that other depth player. We're going to call up Ullman for the time being, but if you guys think it should be Maltby, let me know. I just think you'll complain a bit. But I think this is basically how our lineup should be set up, and that's a really fantastic forward group, but the chemistry still isn't the craziest. So this is where I would maybe think about trying some random line adjustments. But it seems like even if we do move people in the lineup, no chemistry is attached to anybody except for that top line, which is really weird. I think it's because of the X factors, but it seems like we have to kind of keep with this lineup if we want to have some chemistry on that top line. But forwards still look really good. Defensive core would be Lee and Paco, Urquhart, Powell, Polak, and Richardson. Polak would definitely need some playing time on the power play, so it would be probably him running the second unit. Lee and Paco would probably be on their first unit. But we got to think about who should be getting the least ice time of the bunch. I'd probably be running Richardson and guys like Powell and Urquhart on the penalty kill. Powell is a two-way defenseman, so he should probably have power play time too. But we need more forwards on our power play than defenders, I think. So yeah, Urquhart and Richardson are definitely getting penalty kill time. The other four should probably have power play time, but maybe one of them doesn't, which is not ideal. But I think that's the way it should probably be, because Polak is definitely crazily good offensively. Lee and Paco are great offensively. Powell is still developing, but he could be more of a penalty killer probably. And then goaltending, of course, Simic and Forster. And our scratches options, Ullman, Gotch, and Miller. I don't really like scratching Ullman, but I feel like I don't want Maltby to complain either, so it's a tough decision with that one. If we go to our power play unit, though, like I said, I think we need to figure out how to adjust to power play. But right now, this is how it has it set up. Obviously, it would be good to get power play time for Hromis, Benak, Klinga, and McElhaney. And then on the second unit, Green, Law, Rankin, Nakamura should have power play time as well. But we should. I might take Law off the power play because Law's too aggressive. So maybe he's better as a penalty kill option because he is a two-way forward. He's also a physical player though too. So yeah, that might be the play, is to take Law off the penalty power play number 2, and that way we could get Polak onto this unit, and then he could get some power play time because I think he needs power play time. I think he does. Penalty kill number 1 looks like this right now, but obviously we can make it so the guys that aren't getting the ice time are getting more playing time on it. But this is the way it has it set up. Right now, this team though looks pretty damn good. Pretty damn good, I think. I think even better than last year. The thing is, the playing time is going to be a bit iffy because Law, Rankin, and Fernandez are all listed as top 6 forwards right now. That's not good. So yeah, that's why we need Rankin and Fernandez to have power play time. And then Law should probably not get any power play time, but he might complain. But all these guys are literally listed as top 6 forwards. Maybe we can actually justify letting go of Hromis at the end of the year and Benak, because both these guys are pending free agents. That's an interesting thing. That way we could get Rankin and Fernandez into the top 6. Green and Nakamura could play with Klinga. That might be something we think about. But obviously, those are 2 of our really good players, so I don't really know if I think that's a great option or not, but it might be a play. So there's that. Let's check the AHL here briefly, make sure nobody good is scratched. Tambellini needs to be playing, so we're going to take out Ambul because he's technically a guy that could get called up at some point. And we'll run Coach and Tambellini. And then Savon should probably play since he's got top 6 potential. So I will probably take out... I guess Nichols. Because Nichols is the oldest of the bunch. So we'll do that. Boom. And we can readjust this if we want to, but I don't really know what else to do in terms of trying to get this better chemistry and all that. It's actually kind of tough to get the AHL team good chemistry. What if we swap this? Nope, doesn't work. Nope. Alright, well that's fine. Defensively, at least it looks like the defensive core has some decent chemistry. We still need another defenseman signed, which is not ideal. But the AHL defensive core looks pretty strong. And goaltending looks strong too. All right. So that's basically how we would run it, I think, this season. But like I said, the playing time of these third liners, we need to find a way to get them more playing time. I think Rankin and Fernandez power play time, Law penalty kill time would help. The rest of these guys need power play time here too, though. And then there's some defenders that need power play time. So somebody's probably due to complain this upcoming season for sure. All right, so there is that. Anything else we need to do before we end this episode? Anything we need to do? I don't think so. We didn't let go of anybody super big this offseason like I was originally thinking. So I think it's pretty much good to go. So anyways, guys, that's going to do it for this episode of Europe United Draft to Glory franchise mode. So in next episode, we'll take it to the 2038-39 season simulation. I think this team is obviously going to be making the playoffs for sure. But obviously there's a little bit of repercussions because I think some people might complain about their ice time. But I really like the looks of this team. And obviously with guys like Hromis and all that being pending free agents at the end of the year, maybe we wait until the offseason to actually give them a contract extension or not. Because I think, personally, I might be okay with actually letting go of both Benak and Hromis if we need to get Nakamura and guys like that more ice time. Like, I think we've drafted enough good forwards that we could replace them. Will we drop off a lot because of that? Maybe, but that might be a decent option for us to think about once we get to that point in time. So let me know down below, and I'll see you guys next time.